Canelo Alvarez gets a points decision win over Danny Jacobs, just like I said he would. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Remstar Says So. Let's get right into this one, guys. What can I say? Canelo Alvarez went out and did exactly what I said he was going to do. He dominated the fight at times. He came in with a solid jab. He worked the body and he just walked down Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs, in my opinion, is the biggest fucking jackass of all time. Danny Jacobs came in on the scales 3 pounds heavier than the rehydration clause that Canelo Alvarez put in, and therefore Danny Jacobs was fined from what is rumored to be $1 million. Danny Jacobs is also a jackass, and Eddie Hearn has sold out another fighter. The purse split between Danny Jacobs and Canelo Alvarez was 93-7. Danny Jacobs got 7% of the overall pot, and he got $2.5 million. Now, what the hell? Like, Eddie Hearn, he's a pagan. Why would you put your fighter in with the biggest fighter in world boxing and let him take a unification fight for $2.5 million? Canelo Alvarez's next mandatory challenger will get more than $2.5 million. I'm almost sure of it, because mandatory challengers get 25% of the pot. Now, if Canelo Alvarez is getting $35 million and the pot is a little bit more, Eddie Hearn has literally sold out another one of his fighters. But let's get straight into this one. Danny Jacobs had an uphill battle, and if you saw my previous video, I said that Canelo Alvarez was starting this fight somewhere between 4 and 6 rounds up on the judges' scorecard before the first glove was thrown. And what can I say? He definitely used his judges' advantage to the best of his ability. But I don't think it was that bad of judges. For me, I think Danny Jacobs came into the fight far too late. I remember on my scorecard, I'd given Danny Jacobs, I think it was 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12. And I was debating whether I was going to give him the first round, because the first round was so shit. I couldn't work out who I was giving it to. So on my scorecards, it was either 114, 114 or 115, 113. 2 of the judges went for the 115, 113 in Canelo's favor. So on this occasion, I don't know if I can say a huge robbery like what I had seen previously for Canelo Alvarez versus Golovkin in both the fights. Danny Jacobs, who came in 3 pounds heavier than he was supposed to, he did not use his extra weight to the best of his advantage, and he definitely didn't use that size to sort of walk him down. I really don't understand why Danny Jacobs didn't try and lose the extra 3 pounds on the morning of the reweight, because I don't think it would have been too much ask for Danny Jacobs to walk around the block or go on a treadmill for half an hour to go and drop 3 pounds. But he decided to, take that fine like a man, and he lost $1 million of a $2.5 million purse. Eddie Hearn at the time was like, "Oh, don't worry, Danny, I'll pay the fine for you." Absolute bollocks. There is no way in hell Eddie Hearn is taking on that fee for Danny Jacobs. Remember, Eddie Hearn's his promoter, so he's probably taking 20% of the purse. Why would he then go and take the $1 million fine? Doubt it's ever going to happen, but we'll never know. But it was a great fight. Danny Jacobs, he really didn't do much for the first half of the fight. And as I said, he really came into his stride from sort of round 6 or 7 onwards. It definitely was a fight of 2 halves. Danny Jacobs, he looked absolutely piss poor while he was fighting in the orthodox stance. But when he sort of switched to southpaw, that's when he was giving Canelo some problems, hitting him with a few good combinations. Danny Jacobs' biggest issue is that he hit Canelo with everything he had, and Canelo just literally brushed it off. Canelo Alvarez is a man who has a chin made out of pure granite and steel, and because of that, he definitely just cannot be knocked out. The only way to beat Canelo Alvarez, unless your name is Floyd Mayweather and possibly Manny Pacquiao, is to knock him out. And the fact is, I've never seen a chin that sturdy in my life. In the first Golovkin fight, Canelo took everything Golovkin had to offer. And in that fight, I personally believe that Golovkin won that fight by a landslide and it was deemed a draw. In the second fight, I sort of scored it a draw, or may have sort of leaned towards Golovkin, and the judges gave Canelo the nod. So Canelo Alvarez definitely sort of comes in on this one, and he takes the fight. To be fair, looking at that fight, I think I've watched it about 4 times now. The decision, I'm not complaining about it. As I said, I had it either 115, 113 to Canelo, or a draw. Let's all be honest. I said this in my previous video when this fight was announced. The Zone have given Canelo a $365 million contract. There is no way in hell he's losing any fight on the cards. It's just not happening. He is the golden goose of tennis. He's the golden goose of boxing. And because of that, all refereeing and judges' decisions will always go in his favor. It's unfortunate because, we live in a world where boxing is so bloody biased, but that's just the world that we live in. And as long as people keep paying to watch these shit fights, well, not shit fights, but people keep paying to watch these rigged fights, if you want to call it that, this is what we're going to keep on ending up with. But Canelo Alvarez has now unified the division and brought back the IBF championship that Gennady Golovkin had been sort of stripped of previously. So now he holds 3 of the 4 belts. Where does that sort of leave everybody right now? Well, you would think the main priority for Canelo Alvarez would be to go and fight Demetrius Andrade for the undisputed middleweight championship. But after the fight, we've heard a few sort of fights being touted coming up. I've heard that Canelo Alvarez might be looking to go up to super middleweight to fight Callum Smith, and he'd be interested in fighting him at Wembley. I've also heard that the Golovkin trilogy fight will happen. And then also, the Demetrius Andrade. But it sounds like his preference would be the Callum Smith fight or the Golovkin trilogy fight. Now, realistically, I don't really want to watch the Golovkin fight. And the reason why is because I already know what's going to happen. Even if Golovkin wins the fight, he's not going to get the decision. You just cannot get a decision against Canelo Alvarez. Even when he fought Mayweather, there was one pagan biased judge who sort of gave Canelo Alvarez, or she never gave it to Alvarez. There was a judge that gave it a draw, and everybody knew that Mayweather won that unconditionally, or unanimously, however you want to put it. It was a good fight. I think that the only times that Demetrius Andrade actually looked like he was coming into this fight is when he switched to the southpaw position and he started laying down a few haymakers. When he switched to southpaw, this is when he really started to pick up a few rounds. As I said, for me, it was 7, 8, 9, 10. I gave 11 to Canelo, and I think Andrade took the 12th. But it's just too little, too late, especially when you're fighting a guy who is going to be up on the cards. Like, what was Danny Jacobs thinking? He was sort of going through the motions for the first half of the fight. And if you're fighting Canelo Alvarez and you know for a fact the judges and the referee are always going to lean towards him, you've just played yourself. Like, congratulations, you've played yourself. I don't really know what else to say. Danny Jacobs, you're a fool. For you to accept that sort of fight for that small chump change, like, I don't know. Is that Danny Jacobs' biggest purse? Possibly. But then again, he just lost $1 million on fines just because he was 3 pounds overweight and he was too lazy to lose it. What can Danny Jacobs really take away from this fight? Well, he gave Canelo the best 5 or 6 rounds anybody's given him for a long time. But, he's lost his title and he now needs to go back to the drawing board. My advice to Canelo is do what Golovkin wouldn't do. Go for undisputed. When you beat Demetrius Andrade, then you can give Golovkin his title shot for all 4 belts, and then you can think about moving up. I would love to see the Canelo Callum Smith fight, just because I think Callum Smith might be the only person in the world who might have the potential to knock him spark out. Callum Smith is a huge motherfucker. Like, he really should be fighting at the light heavyweight division. So the fact that he's still somehow making 168 is beyond me. I'm a huge Callum Smith fan, and I know Callum Smith will be looking for some sort of retribution for his brother Liam, because Canelo did beat him at 154 pounds. So yeah, let's see what happens. Either way, Canelo still remains the biggest name in boxing, and we all knew that he was going to take this belt. Let me know your thoughts. How did you score this one? Were you happy for the unanimous win? Did you think Jacobs won it? Did you think it was a draw? Let me know your scores. Leave a comment, guys. Share this video. Hit like, hit subscribe. That's the end of the show, because Rem Star says so.